Today we're talking about understanding your child's behavior and a parent's guide and the basics of behavior change. So just to get to know me a little bit, I'm a behavior specialist and a parent, and I understand life gets hectic and I help families find what matters to them even when life's not going as planned. I see clients at my office in Manteca. I also see clients by video call and in their homes. And I've got a Quirky Kids social club that runs on Mondays right now. I'm in network with Blue Shield of California, Anthem Blue Cross, United Healthcare, and Aetna. And I have openings in my schedule starting in late February of 2024. So today's takeaways, this is not an all-encompassing list, but some of the basics of behavior we're going to talk about is how behavior change is a science. We'll talk about the dead man's test, talk about the why behind what we do, and behavior change and what matters most to us as in our specific family. Coming up next time, we're going to see what to do with the information that we've learned today. So it's kind of a dense topic, and we're going to learn about replacement behaviors next session, and then helping your child learn coping skills and how to actually use them instead of just taking deep hyperventilating breaths. But today it's really important that we learn the foundational piece of why we do what we do and how to determine why our kids are doing what they're doing. So I work in applied behavior analysis, and it's also called ABA. It's the science of behavior. And because it's a science, we look at behavior from an objective lens. So we're looking at people's actions and we're not assigning judgment to them. Actions are not good or bad when we're looking at it from the scientific perspective. And that objectivity helps us figure out what helps and what doesn't help, especially with our kids specifically, when we are trying to teach them a better behavior to do that also gets their needs met. So really quick before we start, the dead man's test is very important. When I say behavior, it's anything a living organism does. So in the context of this webinar, we are talking about our kids. It's a building stronger families. So if I say your kids, just remember that you also behave. And it's very important that we remember that our behavior affects our kids' behavior and vice versa. But right now we're just talking about human behavior, and mostly in the examples will be our kids. So if a dead man can do it, it's not behavior. And if a dead man can't do it, it's behavior. What do I mean by that? All right. So when we're finding ways to give our kids feedback on what we would like them to do, we often say, "Can you sit still, please?" Okay. So sure, they could sit still. But a dead man can also sit still. So it's not specific enough. So if a dead man can sit still, sure, our kids can too, but that doesn't mean they're listening. That doesn't mean that they are responding. That doesn't mean they're being quiet and using, they're not making fart noises with their mouth. Like they can sit still and do all of these disruptive things that maybe that's not really what we want to focus on. It's like, okay, so a dead man cannot look at the activity. A dead man cannot follow along. They can only sit still. So when I'm talking about a behavior, I'm talking about a specific action that is actually something that is more beneficial to tell our kids what to do than stop talking. A dead man can sit there and not talk. Absolutely, super easy. So maybe it would be better if we focus on the behavior of tell me what you just heard me say to kind of check that comprehension piece. So anyway, that's what we call the dead man's test. The why behind what you do in behavior science, there is what's called sensory could be a function of behavior, the why. So too much sensory, if you have too much sensory input, if we behave in a certain way, like I run from the room or I yell, turn that music down, that would be sensory avoiding. or if I am getting all of the blankets off the couch and putting them on top of my lap because it's cold and I want some heavy pressure, that could be sensory seeking. Then there's escape or avoidance, and that could be escape or avoiding an activity, a task, a person. Attention is another why behind what we do. And attention, good or bad, doesn't matter. We all are designed to need attention. That's how we stay alive as babies. That's how we get friends. That's how we share interests. Like wanting attention is not bad. It's just a fact that sometimes we seek attention. And then again, we're looking at it objectively. There's not bad attention, it's just attention, especially with kids. They do not differentiate between good attention, like praise, and bad attention, like, why can't you clean your room? That kind of thing. Access is an item or a place, access to a place, an item, a person, an activity. It's basically anything tangible, anything that we can touch, we could go to, we can experience. So, something to note, sensory is also called automatic reinforcement. And that is something that we can fulfill ourselves and we don't need another person. It's not socially mediated, is the scientific term, socially mediated. So, with our kids, potentially there are some sensory seeking or sensory avoiding behaviors, but a lot of it is going to be that socially mediated escape from a demand that mom has given them to go do your math homework so we can then go to the park. Attention, good or bad attention, access. Like our kids really don't have a lot of control to access things all on their own. So when we're looking at the why behind their behavior, a lot of times we will see an escalation in seeking the attention because they can't just, a lot of our little ones especially can't just text a friend like we can to get some social attention. So we are their person, we are their people, and it is okay and normal and expected for our kids to seek those socially mediated whys behind what we do. It's just not always in an appropriate way that we would prefer that they seek that. All right, the assumptions are we do everything for a reason. There's usually more than one reason, and it's just facts. There's no should or shouldn't behind the behavior. If we look at it objectively, okay, cool. My kid is being annoying and they're getting attention. Like it's just the behavior isn't annoying or not. It's just it's serving the need in the moment. If we can step back, look at it objectively, it really helps our perspective as a parent to teach our kids replacement behaviors, which we will talk about next time. So, the objectivity, I like to say we're a behavior detective. When we look at a situation, it's usually in hindsight. We're usually not analyzing behavior in the moment unless you're me and I've, over a decade in the field, a master's degree, experience supervision. Like this is not something that comes easy. So a lot of our reflection, a lot of the detective work is reflection. So if we're thinking of a specific situation, last night we're working on food flexibility in my house, and I made, my daughter likes rice, white rice, and she likes scrambled eggs. And she will eat them separately. She'll eat them separately across different times of day. So I combine them into like a little bland fried rice. So the behavior I'm looking at, we're going to be talking about, is her saying, no, I'm not going to eat this, because that's what happened. So the antecedent to her saying, no, I'm not going to eat this, what happened first was me handing her dinner. Who was around is another important part, the environment. I was around, my husband was around. We were in our home. We were sitting where we always sit to eat. So everything else was the same. And it was the dinner table setting, and I handed her her dinner. I said, "Here you go. Look, I made you rice and scrambled eggs because we're working on eating things together." Behavior. What did the living thing do? My living daughter said, "No, I'm not going to eat that." And that's observable. She didn't refuse to eat it. Words are very powerful. So when we're looking at objectivity, saying she refused to eat it is kind of that negative connotation. So I try to keep it, she declined. She said no. It's not, if you say, oh, well, Zoe refused to eat her dinner, that automatically puts, at least in my brain, a little reflexive of, oh, she was she was disobedient. She didn't do what she should have. So the language that we use is also very important when defining behavior. So the living child said, no, I'm not going to do it. And the consequence, what happened after the behavior is, well, my husband initially said, yeah, you are. And I said, okay, remember, we're trying to work on some of these food combinations. What kind of sauce do you want? So 2 people interacted with her. She said no. So she was avoiding eating the food she didn't want to eat. Even a little delay is enough to maintain behavior. She got attention from dad, she got attention from mom, and then it actually ended up being about a 5-minute conversation, and we found her like a sweet chili sauce that she ended up taking 8 bites of that food. So the consequence either increases the behavior in the future or decreases the behavior in the future. So we're going to be talking about reinforcement and replacement behaviors in the next 2 sessions and the rest of this one. So because she liked the sweet chili sauce, she said she did, it's likely she will try that again on different foods. So that's going in the back of my mind, like, okay, if she's not wanting to eat something and it would be appropriate with sweet chili sauce, let's try that. Which brings us to D, what happens after the consequence? So did the behavior happen more, less, or no change? So she ended up eating 8 bites of it, and then dinner was over because she didn't finish the rest of it, and that's okay. So the D part is what's going to happen the next time I serve that. And then if the sweet chili sauce and just being consistent and offering that same meal was effective this time and next time, then it's likely that she's going to start eating that little plain fried rice that I made her. So when we look at what happened next, that ties into the 4 reasons why. So my daughter specifically, she doesn't have a problem with a variety of textures, but she really does not like textures mixed in the same spoonful. She was also avoiding the task of eating the dinner. So there's probably a little bit of sensory avoiding, a little bit of escape avoiding. And she got some attention from the 2 of us, asking her to just try it with the sauce. So that one behavior of saying no resulted in several different consequences and that met several different reasons why. Reinforcements in the eye of the beholder. So sometimes there is nothing that can convince her to take bites of the food. So that's a whole other situation, a whole other seminar on picky eating. But last night it was enough. The 2 safe foods were enough, paired with the chili sauce, the sweet chili sauce that she liked, that it was enough to get her to eat a few bites. So the only opinion that matters is the organism that is behaving, right? So even if I'm like, well, you could have a chocolate coin after, like that's fine if you want. If it's not worth it to her, if eating that food is not worth it to her, then I don't get to say, well, it's always worth it. You should do it. What matters to our kids today might not matter tomorrow. And needs and wants change all the time for all of us. And because we're an objective behavior detective, the why doesn't need to make sense to us. We just look at it objectively. We accept, okay, well, that's the why behind the behavior. It's not how I would do it, but that is what is going on right now. All right, and questions and comments, type them in the chat. If you're watching the replay, you could send us an email or check out the website or type a comment on the YouTube channel. All right, so we're teaching better behavior. When we know the why, we can teach the better behavior. Ultimately, what matters is for our kids to live happy lives and get what they need. So in That's, of course, in my home, I would assume most homes. And also expanding in that scenario we talked about a bit ago, expanding my daughter's palate so she can access more foods and types of foods when we go out to eat, when we're at families' homes. That's also important. So the better behavior piece is a way to get those needs met, the sensory needs, potentially helping avoid a little bit or escape it altogether by appropriately declining to eat it or offering an alternative, a compromise, and attention in a different way than just saying, nope, not going to eat that, and then, shutting down. The better behavior is one that gets the needs met and meets the same why. It doesn't get our needs met, hopefully, both, but it doesn't only get our needs met. It meets our child's needs primarily, and it's not one that's simply convenient for us as a parent. So if she just ate that whole thing, gagging the whole little fried rice thing down, that would have been fine for me. I would have enjoyed that, but it would not have taught. I mean, not enjoyed that she gagged, but I would have liked if she ate her whole meal that I had cooked her. But it would not have taught her a skill of selecting a sauce to put on it if she doesn't like the original taste. So it wouldn't have taught her how to look in the fridge and figure out which kind of condiment to put on it, a sweet chili sauce. And it would not have taught her how to take her time eating until she felt full or full-ish and really chew her food and just get used to those textures. If she had just shoveled it down because she has to, it's the rule. So when we're talking about replacement behaviors next time, the better behavior is a replacement behavior and it meets the same need. It's a better way to meet the need, that the why behind the behavior. All right. So there's a lot of resources on burgosbehavior.com, the blog and resource page. There is a little bit more on the functions of behavior. One example that I've got on there is scrolling social media. So that's a really good example for the whys behind the behavior, because I'm scrolling on TikTok and I see an ASMR video. I really like the ones where they like cut kinetic sand up. It's like and cutting soap, like that hits the spot. So that could be a sensory experience on TikTok. I could be avoiding doing the dishes. That could be an escape experience or a delay tactic experience on TikTok. So the same stimuli, the same behavior of scrolling TikTok is meeting that. I could send videos or I could watch videos that were sent to me. That is attention from a friend. And I could do TikTok shopping from a TikTok shop. So that's access to tangibles. So just one specific behavior of scrolling TikTok could meet any of the 4 reasons why. So that's another way to kind of apply it to ourselves as parents. Like that's a pretty common scenario. You're scrolling Reddit, any kind of social media. They could all meet those same reasons. And it can help you relate to your child of, okay, well, I do some things for sensory. I avoid some things as well, and brings it back into that objective mindset. All right, discussion time, anything in the chat. And then next time, understanding your child's behavior, we are going to be talking about those replacement behaviors. Teaching coping skills is more than just deep breathing, and then teaching your child in the way they learn best. And we'll be applying all of those ABCs, the antecedent, behavior, consequence, and seeing how we can teach a better behavior. We also have sessions 1 through 3, and soon we'll have this session up on our YouTube channel. It's at Burgos Behavior on YouTube. And if you need anything, let's connect. You can email admin@Burgos Behavior or give us a call. Have a good morning.